Loading Ready Run is a Canadian sketch comedy troupe that has released a video every week since 2003. Believe it or not, they are pre-YouTube. They're currently in the middle of their 11th and final season of releasing sketches every week. And somebody during one of their podcasts suggested it would be interesting to see top 10 lists covering the breadth of their production. And I thought that would be pretty interesting, so here is my list of the top 10 worst Loading Ready Run updates. I'm treating it like it's a surprise, but y'all can read the title. It doesn't matter where I point. The title ain't going to be there in 6 months when they redesign YouTube. So I'm going to point to one place I know the title isn't going to be. It's not going to be behind you watching this video. Number 10. Machinima, Season 3. As a confessed lover of most of Loading Ready Run's machinima, this is the one that never worked for me. The premise that the Pac-Man ghosts are paramilitary soldiers teamed up to stop the menace of Pac-Man from eating dots. It's the sort of premise that reminds me of Meatwad. I get it. It ain't making me laugh, but I get it. The ghosts move out, Pac-Man loses, but now Paul, who was playing the commander, now is the player who was presumably playing as Pac-Man, whatever. Also, that must be a really badass computer to take 30 seconds to load Space Invaders. The second problem I have is purely technical. It's been a while since I've used Final Cut Pro, but have you noticed the squares around the ghosts as the screen fades to white? I have to assume that's because the graphic wasn't just of the ghost, but the ghost on the black background of the Pac-Man maze. I also assume that the black background behind them is just the completely empty black of an empty timeline, and the two blacks aren't exactly the same, so they fade to white differently based on their otherwise imperceptibly different brightnesses. This could have been fixed if the black was removed from behind the ghosts, or if the same shade of black was used for the background. I know these seem like nitpicks, but have you ever seen a show you haven't seen before, and then like a year later you catch another episode of it, and you're like, oh yeah, this show, I should watch this? As it turns out, Machinima is the first episode of Loading Ready Run I ever saw, long before Desert Bus brought me to Loading Ready Run permanently. I watched it, and based on this sketch and the technical problems I mentioned before, I wasn't impressed. Almost any other sketch from Season 3 would have been a better place to start, and that's what brings Machinima to the bottom of the bottom 10. Number 9. Smallpox, Season 6. Just like Machinima's opening, it's a bad sign when the best part of the video is at the very beginning. If you cut out the humongous "Good Buy a T-shirt" ad from Brad, this video is just barely 2 minutes long. It's about Tim renaming the Young Republicans to Smallpox and stringing out tons of dad-worthy jokes to justify it, only to reveal that he actually changed it because he's got some smallpox and he wants to threaten people with it. It's sort of a letdown that the twist in this video is just, oh, I actually have smallpox. To me, this feels backwards. It starts with the crazy justifications for the name, and then eventually breaks down into, oh, it's exactly what I said it was. I suppose the crazy explanation eventually devolving into a simple explanation worked in all the little people. I don't know, this one definitely needed another draft. Number 8. The Gatekeeper, Season 11. It pains me to put an entry from the Year of Lur on this list, but okay, this one contextualizes fan entitlement as a superhero. Lur has done lots of great sketches about superheroes over the years. Actually, Questionably Legal Man, written by yours truly, was called the second best Loading Ready Run video by Captain Ender 7, so that was flattering. Anyway, the Gatekeeper goes around taking things from people because they're not allowed to like them. If this was the real world, they'd just tell him, yes, I am allowed to like this, and punch him in the face. Or what would probably actually happen if this guy was actually the sort of territorial fan that cares who likes the same things that he does, is he'd spin up ridiculous pseudo-logical reasons why they're not real fans and blah blah blah. Not to compare it to my own video again, but let's say you took the last scene off of Questionably Legal Man. He just went around, did his thing, and that was it. That wouldn't really have a payoff, would it? What if Guy with a Cell Phone Man never encountered Landline Lady, or whatever her name was? The Gatekeeper doesn't have that. It has no payoff. He appears the requisite 4 times, and it sorta goes somewhere when the Gatekeeper takes the dude at the end, and that's it. Even Smallpox had a payoff, even if it wasn't a great one. Here's the thing. I can see this video working better if it wasn't Graham playing the Gatekeeper. Now, I don't ever like to criticize actors. I try to never blame an actor for something if there's any chance that they're not the problem. They're the ones you see on screen, and they have the most on the line. But why Graham? Why is he playing the gatekeeper? This video is absolutely crying out, screaming for Matt to play the gatekeeper. I know he's in Vancouver now, but Alex would have done a great job. Beej, Paul, why Graham? Why the broad-shouldered, charismatic Graham, who clearly isn't the kind of guy the gatekeeper is meant to be, and honestly, can't really pull it off? I was half expecting him to have a really well-adjusted alter ego, or for them to make some broader point of over-enthusiastic fans not always taking the shape you'd expect. Or maybe even make a point of the tendencies of otherwise socially conscious people using dismissive, reductive terms about a group of people based on a hat choice or facial hair situation, terms that I am deliberately avoiding here. And maybe this reflects a failure on the writers to really understand what makes the gatekeeper keep. Number 7. Believe it or not, the contentious Skeletor's dick is not on my worst list. Musical videos have never been my favorites, though I make an exception for most of 64K's appearances. Suspend Your Disbelief represents an apex of the effort Lur put into videos at that time, but it never really bowled me over. Nor was I that impressed by Santa and Me, the Christmas video from 2011, because not 2 months before there was The Tale of Matt Wiggins, which is superior, if not as musically complex. Desert Bus has been followed by musical videos more times than not, with A Great Tucsoner Bust, Andy's finest musical performance to date, and Desert Bus killed the internet star, where the crew's exhaustion is palpable. Nevertheless, we have a tie for 7th place, since they're essentially the same video. Desert Power and the Desert Bus Rap from seasons 9 and 10. If I had to pick one, it'd be the Desert Bus Rap. Yes, guys, we get it. You're white, and so you're making a really stiff and awkward rap, presumably while eating a sandwich with mayonnaise and watching Seinfeld. I don't know. I didn't think Skeletor's dick was funny when it was first released, and I still don't, but after the explanations given in the podcast and other places, I understand where it came from. And just like Suspend Your Disbelief, the video and musical production is excellent, and timely videos like the GTA trailer need to be rewatched with some understanding of the short shelf life of such videos. The Desert Bus videos should be given the same courtesy. We'll talk more about timely videos higher up on the list. The Tale of Matt Wiggins was legitimately funny, even if it might confuse people who don't remember why Matt is dressed up like Ganondorf, other than because it's funny. Following this video with 2 more raps, each not nearly as good as the previous one, they threaten to wear out my patience. I beg Loading Ready Run, please don't do another rap this year after Desert Bus. Do anything else. How about a Les Mis parody? Oh wait, you already did that during Desert Bus 6. Why wasn't that the video for that year? Number 6. Eye Potato. Season 7. Let me assume for a second that you've never watched any Loading Ready Run videos. What could you determine about this video from that title? Oh, it'll be a parody of those Apple keynotes. Instead of a phone or a music player, it's a potato. Well, there we are. This is part of the reason why there's a Season 5 video called First Draft Iron Man Trailer and not Cardboard Man. Now, in the Lurcast for this video, Graham disputes that calling the video Eye Potato was a bad idea. I used to disagree, but on reflection, I think he's right. The Eye Potato is unveiled 45 seconds into a 5-minute video. Cardboard Man doesn't appear into the last quarter of the Iron Man spoof. I submitted Questionably Legal Man under the title Police Take Notice, but Questionably Legal Man appeared in the first second of that sketch, so hiding it was just not necessary. It does not give the game away. In fact, in a reversal of this phenomenon, the Season 11 video Social Anxiety Fear Factor probably benefited from having the title give part of the game away, as some people on the forum said it was so awkward to watch they almost stopped. If the video was just titled Awkward, more viewers might have simply dropped out of the video altogether, thinking the whole thing would be nothing but agonizing awkwardness. So what would Loading Ready Run do in a video where they act like a potato is a revolution in flavor? Talk about vitamins and minerals, talk about cooking preparation, probably make a joke about poutine, because Canada. And you wait for that twist where they shake it up, but this time it never comes. I think it's because the joke really is just, what if Apple just announced a potato? What would happen? And the reason why it never takes that twist is because there was enough material to fill up 5 minutes. If you know what an Apple presentation looks like, and you imagine them talking about a potato instead, you have the whole video. It's practically a Mad Libs. And if you don't know what an Apple presentation looks like, you won't care about it. Watching this video for the first time was pretty tough because my dislike of the video was magnified by the embarrassment I felt for the crew. I remember honestly thinking, wow, they are drowning out there and nobody is throwing them a life preserver. What are they doing out there with this script? This was especially troubling in the uncertain times following Blue Monday, when videos would go up on The Escapist and season started at the beginning of the year. It was this combination that made this my least favorite Loading Ready Run video for a long time. The whole time I was writing this, Eye Potato was going to be number 1, but rewatching it has softened my opinion considerably. At least nobody acts like a jerk in this video. The presenter is flabbergasted that people aren't excited about the potato, and the fans are just as confused. It's sort of as if both parties thought the other was going to bring chips and they both brought salsa. Potato still doesn't work. It's on the list because of what it represented at the time. I pushed it further down the list, but apples and potatoes both float. Number 5. Terms of Friendship, Season 6. This is the video where Jer falls under Graham's end-user license agreement after entering his apartment. This video has 2 crucial flaws. The first, and the biggest, is the central conceit is not funny. It's just Graham's character acting like a jerk. Jerk Graham has been fun before, as he was in A Sacred Duty, but not here. This isn't even taking the troublesome concept of the EULA and using a metaphor to explain why it's troublesome. Maybe because EULAs are so obviously bad they didn't think it was necessary. Because it's such a simple idea, they thought it would be automatically funny in this context, but it's not. The second flaw comes right at the end. Tally plays the lawyer that frees Jer from his entrapment and stops Graham from exercising authority over Jer's girlfriend, here played by Ash. They noted in the podcast that they made the lawyer a woman so 3 men would not be trading around this poor girlfriend. If this video had gone to air with a man playing the lawyer, it would probably be the worst video in lure history. As it is, Tally's lawyer's character exercises her newfound rights over Ash, and they leave together. This brings us to the second flaw. Your video should never make the audience wish it followed 2 characters who just left the sketch. Sure, whatever those 2 got up to probably would not have been funny, but somehow I'm way more interested. Number 4. House of the Dead, Season 6-ish. This was one of the videos at the end of 2009 that got folded into Season 6 before Blue Monday. This was Loading Ready Run's second attempt at parodying reality programming. For those of you who don't know, the first was the sleep dep experiment, but all that stuff was cut because it's boring and not funny and stupid. Actually, it was cut because they couldn't keep the characters straight while actually staying up and not sleeping. But it was also boring and not funny and stupid. Much later, they would have success with The Crazy One, a sketch about casting reality programming. The Crazy One is great, but there's not actually any attempt to spoof the reality programming itself. Okay, here's something you should know about me. When I was in college, I tried to watch the first season of Tripping the Rift on the Sci-Fi Channel before they changed their name to have more Y's in it. But at the first commercial of every commercial break, they'd air an ad for Mad House, a reality show about contestants living with people living alternative lifestyles, like a witch or whatever. I'd mute the commercials, which I normally do anyway, but watching the commercials muted, watching the rapid editing and manipulative close-ups and completely obvious chicanery that made up this entire thing, I eventually stopped watching Tripping the Rift. It wasn't even a conscious decision. Seeing those commercials destroyed whatever enjoyment I was getting out of Tripping the Rift. Which, now that I think about it, might have been a terrible show anyway, but I'll take just about any cartoon over any reality show garbage. So yeah, if it's not clear, I hate reality television. And I don't use the word hate lightly. I despise it. I have real, unfiltered, probably unhealthy animosity for it. I hate anything that even resembles it. I don't even like Reno 911 because it's shot too much like a real reality show. Well, I have a few other problems with Reno 911, but that's neither here nor there. Now you know where I'm coming from. So it's not really a surprise this sketch isn't really for me. I suppose it's an effective parody of reality programming. This is where the skills to make an effective parody work against my personal enjoyment of the video. Maybe you love this video. That's great. I'm not one of them, and it's my list. Reality programming is a genre populated by mountebanks, scoundrels, and fiends, and the unfortunates who have had their lives upended in the quest for acknowledgement. It is a wasteland where no truly talented person lurks, and the talented and thoughtful members of Loading Ready Run needn't sully themselves with it. Right? Number 3. The Divorce, Season 4. Yup, the second time we've had Ash and lawyers in the sketch on this list. I'm not going to belabor this one. I get what they're trying, and it's never worked for me. Graham tells Morgan he wants a divorce, leading to confusion and a custody battle. It's well performed by everyone involved. I'm a little surprised at all the cuts in Graham's gigantic monologue at the start, considering he's the king of the gigantic uninterrupted speech. That's one of the reasons why Skeeter Pellant worked so well. And Story Guy was pretty much created to utilize the humor in this. The quick cuts give the sketch some pep, but this video is pretty one note, and to me that note is the repeated thumping bass you hear from your neighbor's house party when you're trying to sleep. It's just an extended argument. It reminds me of a Kids in the Hall sketch called Gerald's, where 2 lawyers were negotiating the terms of a date. In that sketch, there's no confused party. It's 2 lawyers playing the lawyer game in the context of negotiating romantic entanglement. I remember the crew talking about an early draft of Down with the Sickness, where Paul's character didn't understand what was happening to Morgan, so almost every line Paul had was a question. Having him know what was going on made that video a lot more dynamic. Then again, that would make the end of the divorce not work, because unlike the gatekeeper, the divorce does have a denouement. I just don't like it either. Number 2. No, ICP is not on the list either. Even though rewatching it is pretty tough, it really is bad, partially on purpose. Not as bad as the Desert Bus rap, but I give the ICP video credit because I thought it was pretty good at the time. This is the problem we face when you make timely videos. The amount of enjoyment you create from being timely is the same amount you'll lose when the years pass and the memories aren't as fresh. This happens with spoof movies all the time. Watching the later scary movies is like archaeology. Remember when iPods were that big? In fact, it happened in Lur's own Movies movie. Oh, Conan, you're taking over for Jay Leno, are you? How'd that go? The easiest way to date a video permanently is to reference a commercial in it. Commercials are so completely ephemeral, something that was inescapable at the time of production might be completely forgotten about in 6 months. This is why I personally avoid making jokes about commercials in videos, because otherwise you end up like Freddy vs. Ghostbusters, where Freddy Krueger says, "It's okay, I had Subway for lunch." And now Subway has changed their slogan like 17 times since then, but we're getting sidetracked, and that wasn't a very good Freddy Krueger impression. This brings us to number 2, Rebellin, Season 4. By chance, do you remember those commercials for gel insoles that were apparently so comfortable those wearing them would carelessly leave G's off the ends of gerunds? I barely remember it, but I remember it being obnoxious. In this video, Graham and Morgan continue to end their sentences with words that rhyme with the first name of the talk show host with the surname DeGeneres. No, I'm not saying it, you can deal with it. This frustrates Paul until he storms off, obviously acting as an audience surrogate. So apparently this entire scheme was set up to get him back for the events of The Bet, which is a vastly superior video, and here's why. In The Bet, we're not riding shotgun with Graham's frustration at continuing to accidentally talk. We're seeing this video from Paul's perspective as the viewer who can laugh whenever he screws up. Here, we are again seeing it from Paul's perspective, where we are frustrated that we're getting irritating wordplay instead of jokes. Even the description of the video doesn't seem to think it's funny. It got old months ago, but why stop when you're on a roll? I'm sorry, but got old implies it was funny even the first time. Before we go to number 1, there aren't many runner-ups to talk about, so I want to talk about some other Loading Ready worsts. Worst Desert Bus running gag. Africa, from Desert Bus 5. This one started when people didn't know the lyrics to Africa by Toto, so Ashley just screamed, "Africa," when that part came up. Somehow, this became the official exclamation of Desert Bus 5, even topping War Gar Ball. Here's something you might not know about the moon base, especially during Desert Bus. The only door between the main driving center and where I would work on a computer working on the blog was always open. And even if it was closed, this is the only running gag that you could always hear, no matter where you were in the moon base. And the only thing you needed to prompt it was cheering for any reason. It's been 3 years since I experienced this, but just to think of it is like nails on a blackboard. Worst feed dump. Comfortably uncomfortable. Not everyone is an improv comedian. And Ashton is not everyone. Worst ENN. Who the hell are you? Or the 2 newsroom episodes, if they count. Worst Iron Stomach Challenge. Probably Durian. It's just sort of a letdown. Worst Fail House. Fail House 25. I was not amused by that twist at the end. And this is the only Fail House I've never once rewatched. Worst X ways to Y. Ways to use a vuvuzela. The necessary use of sound sort of ruins this one for me. This one doesn't start with a Ways to title screen, so I half expected this one to break down like Buttstellation. The funnel gag is still really funny. And there's no Sam Raimi, which is fine because I don't like Sam Raimi. Worst Commodore Hustle. Either Roll for Treats or maybe Episode 7, Fallout. Now Fallout's a good episode, but the metaplot is totally in a holding pattern. It doesn't move an inch. And let's be fair, none of the videos I've just said are terrible. Africa is terrible. Worst crap shot. None of them! In fact, this is probably a good place to say this. The crew has said they want to make Rapid Fire Series 4, and my response to that is, why? We got crap shots now. Series 3 of Rapid Fire was only okay. Yeah, it had Savoy and Chevalier, and the Bad Pitchman, and Kate dressed up as Bob Ross, but I think putting all the episodes very close together was a bad move. Ironically, I might have remembered more if they were further apart. They just blended together into a giant mass. Knowing that the end of the year was going to be basically nothing but Rapid Fire, it got repetitive and stale. I know they needed a cover for when they were in Seattle for a while, but why not shoot Rapid Fire material ahead of time, air the Rapid Fire episode the week you make a different video, and bank that video you just shot for later use in the year? It's my opinion that there shouldn't be a Series 4 of Rapid Fire. Certainly not one that starts this late in the year and eats up 5, possibly 6 of the very few weekly videos left. It would kill whatever momentum they might have had for the end. Number 1. Monroe's Meats is basically a much weaker version of the dinner party from 4 years earlier. But Monroe's Meats has one of the strangest codas in lure history, in that the stinger picks up on the very frame where the video ended, and a new ending to the scene changes the sketch. This is a trick you can probably do only once, and I'm not entirely sure it actually works for this entry, but Monroe's Meats is not the worst video. Now let's look at Voluntourism from Season 9. Voluntourism is also not the worst video. It's not a very funny video, but it is a good video because of how expertly it skewers the trend of untrained people flying out to impoverished countries to help when literally everyone else would be better off if they stayed in America and donated the cost of the flight to the Red Cross. Actually, when I flew out to Desert Bus 5, that was a question my father asked me. Why didn't I just donate my travel expenses to Child's Play? I hope my contributions did put us in the black, but it's hard to say. I think the lure crew actually thought they made up the word voluntourism to be silly, like with offensive sensitivity. But voluntourism has apparently been used to describe this very phenomenon. Keep these two videos in mind as we come to number 1. The New Old Thing, Season 11. Yes, another year of lure video. This one I don't feel bad about putting on here, and here's why. Kathleen plays a delusional, obnoxious wannabe entrepreneur who lists a series of fallacies and marketing speak to justify using DOS over more modern operating systems. It is a testament to how good an actress Kathleen really is to play a character this irritating. Her antics could be funny if it wasn't so creakingly, agonizingly obvious that until this video takes a badly needed left turn somewhere, which it never does, by the way, only one of two things is going to happen. She's either going to convince him to use DOS, or she's not. If there is a joke here, it must be that marketing speak can obfuscate information and lead to bad purchasing decisions. But everyone knows that, and Lure has done that a bunch of times in better videos, but it was done best with a Jam Troller in the Connect the Dots episode of ENN. In fact, Jam Troller is a better version of iPotato too, except Jam Troller actually came after iPotato. Somehow this ends up playing out very similar to Voluntourism, except in that video, we all knew Graham was right. Here, she's obviously wrong. But she does actually convince Paul to go along with it. This is utterly dissonant. Paul is not established as being stupid, but he's still swooned by this transparent folderol. That'd be like Jer being okay with the EULA in terms of friendship, or the silliness in smallpox. Man, poor Jer. On the other hand, maybe Paul's character was too well equipped to counter Kathleen's bullcrap if he's then supposed to be turned over to the DOS side. Once he says, you can't sell DOS, that's the ballgame for her plan right there, isn't it? Maybe that should have been a later reveal, where she extols the virtues of DOS first, and then learns of the restrictive license, and then she has to alter her tactics. As it is, it's practically the first thing he says to her, and thus making all of the defense of DOS completely pointless, and his eventual acceptance of it ludicrous. After 5.5 minutes of this, I almost never say this about an update, but this video is way too long. We sit through the credits and cool off for about 10 seconds, and then the stinger reveals that the marketing strategy has attracted the attention of an anachronistic man riding a penny farthing. This is actually a callback to earlier in the video where Kathleen asks Paul about what kind of bike he rides, but it takes so long to get to the payoff you almost forget. And since we watch the credits first, and we see the thanks to the bike shop, I'll bet at least someone out there put the joke together before they saw it. But everyone saw the end of the video and the credits, so rather than eliciting laughter, this reveal is more likely to evoke, what's that for? What bike shop? Oh. This is why you don't chop the end of your video off and call it the stinger! Monroe's Meats could have ended just the way it did, without the additional information given in the stinger, but the stinger should not be crucial to the joke of the video. I think someone on the crew has been watching too many Marvel movies. But if you saw Guardians of the Galaxy, even they knew not to reveal who's in the stinger in the credits! And furthermore, the penny farthing joke is almost a repeat of the joke that actually ends the video, where she pulls out an old floppy disk and then the necessary disk drive. The sight of the penny farthing is so anachronistic to be funny all by itself, but not a floppy drive. I'd like to have seen her try to put it into the non-existent DVD drive by sliding it into a seam in the case, or maybe cut open the floppy to put in the round magnetic component into a DVD drive. At least then there'd be something to indicate that she's actually just stupid rather than deceitful. This is the problem. Neither of these characters are supposed to be stupid. The 3 small-time videos are some of my favorites because of how differently stupid and dysfunctional the two thieves were, and how they'd have to continually compromise what they were looking for, with their eventual take getting smaller and smaller until it was barely worth it. It's actually hard to see where these videos are going, because the labyrinthine plans they make for themselves follow no predictable, logical structure. Kathleen's character is just saying things that are incorrect, and that's not funny by itself. There needed to be another wrinkle, another twist, another left turn somewhere, and that stupid bicycle shows up too late. And after all that, 1 month after this video was released, George R.R. Martin of the Song and Ice of Fire series stated in an interview that he writes his best-selling novel series on a DOS computer. Some people criticize George R.R. Martin for taking his sweet time making the next book in this series. But I think that he knows that no matter how long you've done something, there's always the chance you make something that's terrible. Thank you all for watching. Yes, I'm going to do a best list, okay? For Pete's sake. Like, my list of best videos is like 6 times as long as my worst. Okay, because these guys really do good stuff. If you haven't seen it, go to LoadingReadyRun.com now and, put aside some time and watch some of this stuff. But to find the favorites, you have to wait for my next video, which will be forthcoming sometime soon. Thank you all for watching. George R.R. Martin, the author of the Song and Ice... God damn it! Song and Ice and Fire series. God damn it!